So it's day 2 and we're headed towards a city called Kramatorsk. This is one of the major cities in the Donbas, and we've just got intel from locals, units there, that the city's being hit really hard at the moment. Actually, that whole area of the Eastern Front is under a huge Russian push. The Russians are hammering the front lines at the moment with everything that they have. And last night we stayed with a unit in Sumy, not that far from the Russian border, and a missile actually hit the power station at around 1 o'clock in the morning. All the power went out. And that was actually quite an unusual event. The unit said that hasn't happened, and they've been based there for over 6 months. And it just shows the intensity, the new increased intensity that the Russians have been putting on the front line at the moment. Hitting power stations, hitting apartment blocks, hitting energy infrastructure, all of it. And this is kind of helping us build a picture of exactly kind of what's happening all across this front. So now we're going to go to Kramatorsk, and we're going to deliver, and Harry's going to deliver a vehicle, some equipment to units that are based there, and then we're going to go to a town called Dobropillia. I was last there in November, and it was pretty quiet. But we've been hearing now that the Russians have been putting glide bombs, cabs, all sorts of munitions into that city. And the situation is getting really dramatic there. There's actually a road that goes from Kramatorsk to Dobropillia. It's about 70 kilometers. A lot of it's lined with nets because the Russians have been hitting it with FPVs constantly. But we've been advised that actually it might not be a good idea to take that road because even this morning there are cars on fire, cars that have been hit not just by drones from the sky, but these drones on the sides of the roads. And they basically sit and wait on standby mode, and Russian operators will watch and wait for a vehicle to go past, and then they'll take off and they'll chase the car. But I really want to go to this town because there's a church in that town, and a friend of mine has been interviewing the priest of that church since 2022, and she's gone back every single month and interviewed him. And she really likes him because he said, I will never close this church until the last second, until I absolutely have to, until it's the last resort. That's what I want to see. So I want to visit that church as well and see if I can find the priest and talk to him about what he thinks is going to happen next. And so we started in Sumy yesterday. This is right at the top. This is where the Kursk incursion happened, but it's also where the Russians are pushing down just north of that checkpoint to try and reach the city of Sumy, or at least get to a level where they can start hitting it with artillery. And we're going to go right down through Kharkiv towards, again, Kramatorsk. And Kramatorsk is basically the center of a ridge. At the top of it is Sloviansk, then you have Kramatorsk, then you have Konstantinivka right at the bottom. These kind of 3 major cities, very industrial cities, but Russians have been trying to take this area for a very, very long time. Actually, in 2014, the Donetsk People Republic, which is just basically a Russian bullshit propaganda campaign, just Russian paid soldiers pretending to be Ukrainians, took and held that city for a short period of time, and there was a really big battle there, and then it was liberated back to Ukraine. But Russia wants it. Right now they're encircling Konstantinivka. The last time I was there was probably about a year ago. It's the city that I filmed Under Deadly Skies in with John Sweeney, and Harry's just told me that is completely off limits, not just for journalists, but for volunteers, basically anyone that doesn't live there, and just soldiers, because again, the Russians are hitting it constantly. I wouldn't say this is a completely new offensive, but it's a push right now. At the same time, North Korea have just announced 30,000 new soldiers to the Russian army. At the same time, China are now delivering almost 80% of the parts for the Shahed drones, one of which flew over the unit that we were staying in last night. That seems pretty close.
Here we got.
Yeah, that's right above us.
It really feels like this is a new wave of intensity. Things are really, really heating up. And this has been described by almost every unit and soldier that we've spoken to on this journey so far. The US Army tweeted yesterday, did you see it, saying, have you ever seen a drone drop a grenade? This is the most incredible thing ever. And they were like, for the first time, a US made drone drops a grenade at a testing field in Germany. And they were talking about it like it was the second coming of Christ, like the most advanced warfare ever. Did you see this?
No, but it's fine.
Are you joking? No, I'm going to play it over this clip. But they tweeted it in all caps. Have you seen a grenade dropped from a drone? As if they just discovered this, and all the Ukrainians were losing their shit. But I guess the reason I'm saying it now is because that shows just how far behind, not just the US military is, but I guess just the general population.
I think
things are now.
The whole Western world is, all the Western countries are behind.
Yep.
Everyone is behind, and that's what they don't get it. They don't get it. How how much Russia has been advanced, not just Ukraine, but Russia. And there's no competition for European countries now.
On the way to Kramatorsk, we passed through the city of Kharkiv. It's Ukraine's second largest city with a population of 1.5 million people. The Russians have been trying to get to this city by pushing relentlessly in the east, and they've been hitting the downtown residential areas with glide bombs on a daily basis. These buildings that we filmed driving past were hit just 24 hours later. We reached the city of Kramatorsk. The last time I was here was 3 months ago, and even since then, I can see significant signs of new damage. The Russians have been relentlessly hitting this city, and it looks like things have intensified in recent weeks. Harry's delivering some drones to a local unit, and the commander had a few minutes to talk.
Why do you think Russians are pushing so hard now in the last?
Because they're overwhelming us in some direction 4 times in shells and in people. First of all, in human resources, they have enormous number of soldiers at the moment, and they're moving every time, every hours, and actually they're not sorry about any losses. So their commanders, they're sending the people to die, and they're going to die.
What's the most difficult part of this in terms of the Russian advances right now?
At the moment, the drones, FPV drone, it's on optic fiber. It's a really huge problem at the moment.
Where do you see the most difficult area of the front line right now? The most.
Pokrovsk.
What do you think will happen in the next few weeks?
I can say this because I have to be there, but the situation is really, really difficult.
Drive down this road for another 20 minutes and you'll get to Konstantinivka, a place I've reported many times before. But on this trip, it's the first time that the entire city is closed to journalists and to volunteers. And that is because the Russians have been hitting it non-stop with FPV drones as they try and encircle the city. So we head west to Dobropillia. It's a fallback town just before Pokrovsk. And on the way, we find something I've never seen before in Ukraine.
Yeah, I've seen so many videos of this, but I've never seen. Oh yeah, there's nets here. Look.
Just
Yeah. Wow, that is wild. It feels like this is the beginning of how all roads are going to look in every front line in the world. I've seen so many videos of these right on the very, very zero line, but never up close like this.
These nets are designed to take down the drone before it hits your car, basically like a spider's web. Dobropillia is a bustling market town, and every time I've been in the past, it's been a place to stop for food, meet soldiers, or chat to volunteers. And right on the high street, a couple of days ago, a glide bomb decimated the town centre.
So we just arrived in Dobropillia, and I was here literally a few months ago, and this is the main street through the centre where Harry and I got hot dogs, where I went to go and try and find some camera parts into some of these shops, and not only is this street now completely obliterated by a Russian glide bomb, but the entire city is deserted. I cannot describe how busy this was last time I was here. And they put that bomb right into the center of this city, right into the center. And what's crazy is this city is next if Pokrovsk falls. Pokrovsk is only 17 kilometers this way. If you drive down this road, you'll be in Pokrovsk in about 10 minutes. And that city is being encircled right now by the Russians. And they have been hitting this city basically non-stop. That's why people aren't really leaving their houses anymore, and this city is just drained of life. But this is what happens when the Russians get closer. I wanted to go to Pokrovsk, and it looks like the Kyiv Independent were the last journalists that actually made it there, just down the road. And there's basically no one getting in at all. And the city is basically besieged at this point. And locals here are nervous. I just tried to speak to a few different people, and no one wants to speak because they're terrified. They're terrified that if the Russians come, then they'll be tortured for maybe speaking to media. They're terrified of all of this. So here we are, right in the center, and look, I'm the only person here in a lovely afternoon. And again, these streets were full of people. Jesus. This shop I literally was in a few months ago, completely obliterated.
With the city almost emptied out, there's almost no one to speak to us, except one shopkeeper who's kept his business open.
Мы не выезжаем. Ну, практически сейчас, во-первых, некуда. На данный момент мы просто не можем выехать. И как бы не хотим бросать здесь все.
I ask him what he'll do if the Russians arrive.
Оставаться здесь никто не будет при них. Ладно, никому не надо, мне кажется.
I hear buzzing outside and ask the volunteers what they heard.
You just saw a drone?
It's been circling and took a dive right now. Yeah, this is pretty much a ghost town. And
Yeah, when's the last time you had an instinct like this?
Afghanistan, right before we got shot. But it's not coming our direction yet.
I can hear it, yeah. Maybe we go. Let's go.
On every journey in Ukraine, I've found civilians to speak to, except this time. This is the first time in a city driving around for hours where everyone is locked inside or they've left. Before we leave, we decided to visit the church, whose priest said he wouldn't leave until the very last second, until the Russians were at the door, and until there was no hope left. The priest left 3 days ago. The only thing left were piles of shoes and clothes and teddies left behind from locals who carried everything they could out of the city. And this is happening in every town near the front line. As the Russians come closer, darkness follows. Everything degrades. Life leaves. Every report I've made in Ukraine ends with notes of hope, except for this time, because there was no one left. And this journey has had moments of resilience, has had moments of hope, of the men and women fighting every day on the front line. But when the Russians get closer, this is all that's left.